أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وعليكم السلام.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We begin in the name of Allah. All praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and forgiveness. We seek refuge through Him from the evil of our own souls. Whomsoever Allah guides, there is none to misguide. And whomsoever Allah misguides, there is none to guide. And I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship other than Allah. And I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his last and final messenger. All praise is due to Allah, the most greatest, the most magnificent, the most just, the most merciful, and the all-knowing. The one who sees that which we cannot see, and the one who has the power to do that which we do not have the capability of doing. And in this khutbah, in this particular climate, in this Friday in October, we sit here in a venue, in congregation, in communal salah, to, number one, offer our thanks to our Creator. Offer our thanks to our Creator for giving us another day to live, for giving us another week to live. Because, surely speaking, there may not be a next week, there may not be a next day. And so we come to this masjid in communal worship to offer that worship to Him. But it is also ironic that in this week, in this very climate, in this yearly, date that we are in today, this month of October, we are in the midst of situations that are going around in the world that affect us both directly and indirectly. Thousands of miles away, we have an oppressed Burmese population who are seeking comfort and who are seeking peace and tranquility, but they do not have the means to do so because they are being oppressed for the very sake of just saying that they believe in one God. A belief that has been consistent over time, yet they are being oppressed in this very day and age. And just days ago, we witnessed people who may not have been Muslim, but were massacred at an event, not knowing that they were going to be massacred at that time, were killed in an unjust manner. And regardless if they are Muslim or not, regardless of whatever the political climate is or not, regardless of whoever is president or whoever is not president, the issue at hand is that the blessings that we have can soon go. The blessings that we hold to be so fundamental, to be taken for granted, that are a given. The fact that we wake up every morning, the fact that we go to sleep every night without the thought that we may not wake up the next night. Those blessings, given these happenings around the world, are put into perspective. And so the primary question that must be asked is, how can these blessings be taken away? And if they were to be taken away, would our faith remain the same? I mean, look at the population of Skid Row today. If you look at the population of Skid Row, some of the members from Islamic Center California, we go to the Los Angeles National Regional Food Bank. And we, in the span of 4 hours, alhamdulillah, we have the ability to put together lunches for at least 4,000 elderly homeless and very young homeless. 4,000 people in the span of 4 hours. And every time we go, they give us a presentation in the beginning of the food bank session. They said that this year, we have exponentiated in terms of how many people are in Skid Row than the last year. And the year before that was more than the last year. Telling us that there is a serious situation in terms of poverty and in terms of the acquisition of basic health and basic needs in the greater Los Angeles. Even in places like Santa Ana and Orange County, the need still exists. If that were us, what's to say that's not us tomorrow? Who's to give us the privilege that one day our car will be taken away? One day the paycheck that we see may not be given to us tomorrow. Who's going to say that we may not be in their situation tomorrow? And if we were in their situation, would our faith be the same? Another reminder is that look amongst us. Look around us in this communal worship, in this Jum'ah prayer. Think about the October of last year, October 6th of last year. Think about who was in this congregation. Maybe the same members are not here today. Maybe the same members that were here last year are not here today. So the most logical question, the most logical derivation, the conclusion that can be drawn from this, regardless if you're Muslim or not, think about it, it's just logic, is that we have been granted blessings and we have been granted mercies from a higher being. So the most logical conclusion is that as human beings, we must give thanks to that higher being. We must offer our worship to that higher being. Why? Why offer these things? If you were to go in the middle of a desert and you saw a gold watch in the middle of the desert and you saw nothing else in that desert, what would be the first thing that would come to your mind? You would ask yourself, where did this watch come from? Who dropped this watch here? Surely the desert did not have the mechanism, did not have the capability to produce such an object like this. Surely it must have come from somewhere else. Similarly, we look at this world in a very similar fashion. We look at the way the sun rises from the east and it sets in the west every single day. Not one day has it failed to do that. When the solar eclipse happened just some days ago, we thought, how are we going to see it by those glasses or whatever it may be? But it happened. Regardless if me or you were going to be there, that solar eclipse was going to happen. Nature has its perfect course, regardless if we're there or not. You know what they say? If you cut a tree from a forest, is it still a forest? Yes, of course it's still a forest. You cut two trees, it's still a forest. If me or you were to be out of here today, this world would still go on. Nature would still go on. If you look at a baby, a child that is born, at its early stages of life, it has a very low immune system. It is susceptible and it has a greater chance of being exposed to pathogens and bacteria early in life, so that later in life, when it grows up, when that baby grows up into an adult, it won't be exposed to the same rate. It will have a preparation so that it won't be infected or disturbed by the pathogens that they are exposed to. This is done with some intellect. This is done with some design. And so then we ask ourselves, well, surely God must be thanked. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِن نُطْفَةٍ أَمْشَاجٍ نَبْتَلِيهِ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. Verily, we created man from a drop of semen to save him, and we gave him gifts of hearing and sight. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further on goes to say, إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهَا سَبِيلًا إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. That we have showed him the way, whether he be grateful or ungrateful. Whether he be grateful or ungrateful, we have been showed the way. We have been showed the signs of our existence, but it is up to us to choose which path we're going to go. It is up to us to choose if we're going to make that right turn or if we're going to make that left turn. There comes a point in every child's life, especially like young youth, right? When they're going into adulthood, when they realize that the same mistakes they may have made earlier in their life, it's not going to cut it in adulthood. It's not going to make it when they go to their job. If they like to sleep in until 11:30 a.m. until 12 p.m. In the afternoon, when they get a job in the work industry, when they get a job in engineering or as a doctor, as a lawyer, whatever it may be, they're going to be expected to wake up at a certain amount of time. They're going to be expected to report to duty, and it is not based on their convenience. Rather, it is a standard set to them by a higher power. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that kufr, which is also known, it is also known as being ungrateful. Why? Because the greatest act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest act is to be ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is to be ungrateful of all the blessings that He has put around him, which is why the word kufr is used for this. But the opposite, the antonym as known in English of kufr is shukr, which means what? Gratefulness. Because the best deed, the best action that you can give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being grateful for all that you have. In the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam, when the queen of Sheba was coming to Sulaiman alayhi salam, he wanted to show her the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to replicate and to bring the throne from the Queen of Sheba, from her throne room, and to replicate that in his very own kingdom. So that when she comes and she sees that throne room, she's going to know there's no way it made it from there and back in such a short amount of time, except through the work of a higher being. And so when that throne was replicated and it was put forward, Sulaiman, he asked and remember his arsenal was huge. He had birds at his disposal. He had insects at his disposal. He had great beasts and human beings, whatever it may be. Most creatures at that time were at his disposal, and he could move within the span of seconds. So he asked, who amongst you will be the one to replicate this throne? Who amongst you will carry out this task? And there was a jinn who said that I will do it yesterday, man. I will be the one to carry out this task. So he goes, he brings the throne. It was so fast that you could not even blink your eye and the throne was there. And what does Sulaiman alayhi salam say? He says, this blessing is to test me whether I am thankful or not. He doesn't say, oh my God, wow. He doesn't say, look at that throne, look how fast it came to me. No. He says that this blessing is to test me whether I'm thankful or not, whether I'm grateful or not. Because think about it, even the youth, sometimes when they're taking exams in college, and I can attest to this, as many can attest to this, that when a huge exam is coming up, maybe the first week of school, there's no exam. Second week, there's no exam. Everybody's just chilling. In the student union, they're eating Subway, mashallah, they're drinking Coca-Cola, Sprite. Oh, we'll study later. We'll study when the time comes. Third week, fourth week comes. And then by the time you know it, the professor says, tomorrow is the exam. Wallahi, I swear, and many of you can attest to this, the prayer rooms are flooded in that fifth week. Because everybody wants to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them good grades on that exam, right? But what happens after that exam is done? Alhamdulillah, we did so good, we aced that exam. The day after, the Fajr is Dhuhr time. They don't even wake up for Fajr. It's human nature that when we're in times of need, when we're in times of calamity, when we need something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will rush to Him. Which is why if you look at Ramadan, if you look at Laylatul Qadr, we don't know exactly to the point when Laylatul Qadr will be. Why? Why was it left ambiguous? It's so that we put our full effort throughout the whole month of Ramadan, because think about it. If we knew when Laylatul Qadr was, if we knew that exactly on this last day was Laylatul Qadr, on the 27th, on the 25th, then we would ignore the entire Ramadan and we would come just on that day. The parking, you wouldn't have problems with parking. You would just hire 5 security guards just for that day. They would solve your parking issues because everybody would come on that day. In the time of Musa alayhi salam, when Musa alayhi salam came back to Egypt and he communicated the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Fir'aun, Fir'aun obviously denied, and many people denied. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent tests. He sent tests to the people to show them His might. And among those tests, many tests, the locusts, the lice, the blood in the river, so many tests were given to these people. And every single time a test was given, they went to Musa and they said, oh Musa, it's too much. This test is too much. We can't take it anymore. So please, your Lord that you believe in, go tell Him that we'll believe in Him. Go tell Him that we'll believe in Him. Just tell Him to stop this. We know He's there. So Musa alayhi salam, of course, he made dua and he said, Ya Allah, please alleviate these symptoms, because they said they'll believe. But then when the symptoms are alleviated, when the calamity goes down, they go back same to their old ways. And it goes on in a repetition, in a repetition. So of course we must understand that thankfulness is being thankful even when we're at the peak of our financial wealth. If we're at the peak of our blessings, or even if we're at the lowest. Because that in itself is a blessing. So we have derived that, of course, alhamdulillah, we should be thankful. And we know why we should be thankful, but how do you become thankful? What is the means by which you become thankful? Because we've defined the abstract, we've defined the hypothesis, we've defined the introduction, but what are the methods? What are the means by which we're going to conclude and achieve this result? If you look at any other denomination in the world, we had somebody that came to the masjid one time, and they said, I'm interested in Islam, and I want to become a Muslim. But I don't know, which religion is the right religion. How do I know that Islam's right? It sounds nice, but how do I know this is the religion for me? And so, one of us, we explained to her, we said this, that if you were to look at all the other denominations in the world today, if you look at Judaism, if you were to look at Christianity, if you were to look at Hinduism, and if you were to look at Islam, look at the level of devotion, physical devotion, put forward by each of these denominations. And ironically, we were speaking right when the Tarawih prayer was happening. And we said, imagine if a God was out there, and if he were to choose a people to follow, to be the best of followers, to be the right followers, the one on the right path, would he choose people that reserve their worship for 2 hours on one day of the week? Would he choose people that reserve their worship for 2 hours on another day of the week? Or would he pick the people who are in the masajid right now, bowing their heads to their Creator after a long day of not eating or drinking? You take your chance. And this has nothing to do with religion. This is just logic. Take your pick. Which one do you think this Lord will pick out of all these groups of people? He said, of course, the people who have devoted this much time. Because there's no way to argue that. Which is why Islam can be communicated so thoroughly and so easily just by using logic. And so inshallah, in the next half of the khutbah, I will conclude this topic and bring this into a closed loop so that inshallah, when we leave today, we can benefit from the topic of thankfulness. So we have defined, alhamdulillah, what thankfulness is, and we have defined the methods by which we should achieve it. But we also have to understand that the biggest blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us, the biggest blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us is, as we know, the deen of Islam. The word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fact that we believe that there is no God but God, and that the Prophet Muhammad is the last and final messenger of God. And this must be held first and foremost. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also said that there are two blessings by which insan or men, they forget very easily. The first being good health. Good health is always forgotten from us because, to be honest, we like when we walk around and there's nothing wrong with us, we don't really think what could happen if something were to be wrong with us. There was somebody I knew, he was playing at the height of his soccer career in high school, and he tore his ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament in your knee, which is literally the most crucial ligament in your knee. That's why the name was derived, because it really controls the movement and the mobility of your entire leg. And so when the anterior cruciate ligament was demolished, now this person was on the bench and he was looking at his teammates, the ones who were playing in the same position that he played in. And he had college scouts coming to his games that were bent on taking him to their university because he was a good player. He was probably the best on their team. But now he's in a position where he's on the bench and he's looking at the field and he's asking himself, what is the purpose of this? Why? What is the logic behind me or this person being the best player coming off of the bench and all these people who are not as great playing in the same position behind this? Surely there is a greater purpose to this. Surely there is a plan, there is a design behind this situation. Similarly, the Prophet said, on the flip side also, we neglect free time. We take it for granted, actually. We take it for granted too much, but think about it. What is time? Time is just a creation, just like every one of us. If you were to ask what a month feels like, or what a second feels like, or what a year feels like, maybe us as human beings who are okay in this congregation, maybe we wouldn't know. But what about a month? How do you think a month might feel like? Well, ask somebody who maybe was about to give birth to a baby. and before a month of giving birth, they had a miscarriage, right? Ask that person what a month meant to them. Ask them how much a month, a standard of time, would mean to them if they had another month to have that baby live. What about a week? A week. Why don't you ask somebody who's on Skid Row who has a week to live? Ask him, what would you, or him or her, what would you do if you were given the means to go out into the world today? If you have a week to live, what would you do with your time? They would say, verily, I would do all the deeds that I could do that were the exact opposite of what put me in here today. I would do as much as I could to rectify, to ask for repentance for what I did, because I only have a week to live. What about a second? Let's take it down to a second. What about a second? Ask maybe a professional athlete, a runner, a track and field runner, who had no education, but had the best of accomplishments. He was the fastest on the field. But when he was going into the Olympic qualification, he lost that race by a split second. Ask him what a second feels like. He'll tell you what a second feels like. Because the truth, my brothers and sisters in Islam, is that these blessings that we take so easily for granted are things that we should really put into perspective and ask, if this were to be taken away from us tomorrow or the next day, what would we do in response? So I ask that my brothers and sisters in Islam that we pray great need to these issues. I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives aid to all the impoverished nations around the world, the ones who are going through calamities, the ones who are going through oppression. I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solve any internal oppressions that we have within our community, that He gives us strength in all our endeavors so that we may be successful in this life and the next life. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله وفي واعتدلوا استووا تراصوا الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you to today's Khatib, Brother Bilal Zaheen. Inshallah, he will be joining us. Inshallah, Brother Muhammad al-Hindi will be joining us for family night tonight. Inshallah, next week's Khatib will be Brother Shakil Sayyid. There's a fundraiser going on online on Launch Good Muslims for Las Vegas. Those who are hurt in the Las Vegas incident, you can contribute to that. That's on Launch Good. Please don't forget to register your kids and yourselves on the ICS Quran Academy with Sheikh Anas. Also, you can register your kids at the weekend school. It is open if you would like to register. Every Friday, we have a women's group from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. with Dr. Fatima Arafat, so you can sign up for the women. If you have any questions, please visit the welcome booth outside. You can become a volunteer or just sign up your email for weekly updates outside at the welcome booth. Please don't forget to donate to the general funds of this masjid as well as the new building. And please make dua for those who are sick and those who pass away.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين وأعلي الحب الكرائم والحق والدين. اللهم انصر نصر دينك ودعمنا منهم مقبل مقبل دينك ولا تدعمنا منهم. اللهم انصر لنا وانصرنا وانصرنا وتولى لحبك يا عظيم الشأن خلاصنا. اللهم اشف مرضانا اللهم اشف مرضانا اللهم اشف مرضانا. اللهم رب الناس اجعل البأس عنهم اشفهم عن الشفاء لا شفاء الا شفاء موتانا غير سقما. اللهم اغفر موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم اغفر موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمشايخنا ولمن عبدنا ولمن علينا. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم.
I was thinking, do you want to become a model? Yeah, that is good. That's good. I don't know.